For Dr. Hines. Can you please help the Nassau County Superintendents to provide the same type of leadership What advice do you have for parents who are trying to convince their district that it should not be using these tests to determine enrichment or special needs services? Our school district is still using these tests, and parents are afraid to refuse the test for this reason.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to use my big boy voice. Can you hear me back there? All right. It's a really good question. It's a question I grapple with myself. Suffolk County superintendents, I will say, they are not in agreement. I used to work in Plain Edge, so I know how some of the Nassau County soups are as well. And it's a different animal out in Nassau from Suffolk, and I don't mean it in a bad way or good way. It's just distinctly different. So here's the short answer. Amongst a group of Suffolk County superintendents, not to use the bell curve again, but it's true. You have some who are here, you have some who are here, and then you have some in the middle. I think the biggest common denominator for those who feel this way and are able to take a step forward and go on the platform is that they have their Board of Education behind them. That makes a very, very big difference. So if it's the one variable that you can control and you do have a voice with, it's with your Board of Education. As to, there are lots of boards that are passing resolutions. You would know that if you, in your free time, you check the minutes and you can see what has happened. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you want a voice within your community, you approach your board members, because we serve not only certainly the students as superintendents, we certainly serve the board. And that is probably your best bet in order to do that.
I'm veering off a little. Do you have any advice on the best way to approach the board? Because I think a lot of us are frustrated that we are not being heard and they are not listening.
Yeah, well, I know you have a question too. I'm going to tell you the way I try to operate in my district. And listen, and some superintendents may not subscribe to this. I work very closely with the teaching union president. That, to me, allows us, I should say, to work closely to get things done. We don't agree with everything, but we certainly honor each other as far as what is best for them. Most school districts have lots of teachers that live in their community. And some people who live in the community who are teachers talk to board members. They're very friendly with board members. And so if you have a hard time addressing a board member and maybe he or she is not listening, I would find other avenues to do that. And usually it's the voice of a teacher who lives in the community or someone who works in the school district that can get your voice out there. I have found that to be very effective in the multiple school districts that I've worked in, and that's probably the best way to do it. Okay?
Okay. A lot of these pertain to superintendents, but anyway.
Okay, I'm going to go now.
I'm going to ramble, so feel free to drink your water. But as I said, it does mention superintendent, but if anyone else has some knowledge behind this, please feel free to jump in. There is a rumor that Tisch has sent down word that any superintendent who promotes test refusals will lose their jobs and or face disciplinary action. Is this true? And if so, how can we stop Tisch in her tracks? Anyone?
Well, that's the purpose of the opt-out legislation.
Yeah.
No, forget that. The bill that was announced last week, the one that I alluded to and Ed alluded to, the purpose of it was to, by law, allow for there to be proactive information about that. Now, the chances of that getting passed in approximate time frame is a whole other set of dynamics in the Senate and the Assembly. But we wanted to be unambiguous about it because we've heard the same things. And I think, what the superintendent just said, whether it's Tisch or whether it's local school board, pressure can be put on some element of the school circumstance that then turns around and puts pressure on the superintendent. And it will differ from district to district. We have that in Westchester, a wide range of districts that are more and or less interested in these things. So the best answer would be the legislative answer, but that's going to be a hard lift. That's what Ed, myself, and our colleagues tried to accomplish with the press conference last week. That would make it unambiguous, and then it wouldn't put the burden on the superintendents to have to make the decision, do I risk my career or not?
And I'm glad you said that. It's a really good point. To further that, one of the things that I found, very effective, I heard that it's like an urban legend, but it's really not. Can a superintendent lose their license? He or she lose their license? And it's going around. I think it's actually going around on Facebook right now. I'm going to tell you right now, I haven't heard anything directly from the chancellor. What I do know is that when we swear to take this constitutional oath is that we are working in conjunction with state ed, meaning that if they set forth a mandate or the commissioner sets forth something, we are by law supposed to follow it. So that's why it is this very gray line as far as us saying, yes, parents, you should opt out. However, when I say, yes, parents, I respect your choice, that's totally different. Here's the one thing I have seen some superintendents who I never thought would bend this way, by sending a letter to their community saying, we respect the parent's choice. I've seen it happen in the past 2 weeks. Superintendents who I never thought would go this way, they are starting to do that, and I think it's because of you, and I think it's because the boards are starting to listen to what's happening. So that is very, very effective. Superintendents who I never thought would do that, and that's in Nassau and Suffolk, they are starting to do that now.
Okay, this is for our educators.